Show.
And welcome into a post-game edition of Judd's Hockey Show. It is Judd, it is AJ Fredrickson, and it is a 3-1 Wild loss to the Calgary Flames here at home. It is the third consecutive loss. Obviously, the Wild got swept by the Jets over the weekend in Winnipeg, and then Sunday here, and this is another defeat to a team from north of the border. And AJ, there's a lot to talk about here. Starting with this. Tonight, we found out before the game that Marcus Foligno joins the list of the walking wounded, lower body injury. So, by my count tonight, you had no Zuccarello, no Foligno, no Brodin, Gustafsson is out, so Fleury had to start again, and Lettieri is out. In were guys like Sammy Walker, Patan, Lucchini, I believe that's how you pronounce it, Mermis. Long story short, I didn't think the Wild played poorly. I thought they actually, the first period was pretty lackluster and they gave up 2 goals. But I thought, to what Drake just said there, I thought that the goaltending from Fleury was incredibly solid. I thought the Wild played a solid second period. And before they ran out of gas in the third, I thought they were going to tie this score because it was 2-1. But this goes back to what we were talked about, I think, on the last time that we did a JHS, and it's this. Unfortunately, yes, you're banged up, but any margin for error or grace went out the window with that start. So it's very frustrating because you're falling farther and farther back with key games. And you would like to say, well, yeah, but they got a bunch of guys out and they'll be fine. The problem is that doesn't afford you the start that this team had. And so this is a real pickle that they find themselves in, because of that fact, is that they're losing valuable points. They are banged up, but their start was so bad, they don't get like, okay, go back and that's fine. This is a real problem.
And it's not even that they're losing, it's that they're also losing now 3 straight times in regulation. So not only is there would be a little bit of grace if you're getting a point every other, if those 3 maybe go to overtime, you lose in a shootout in both. You have now, it's a 6-point swing against teams in your conference. Two of those games that you lost in regulation are a home and home against the team in your division that are directly above you. You can't afford to lose 3 straight against Western Conference opponents after the start that you had. Yes, to your point, I think they played more than enough to probably get a point in this game. Jacob Markstrom, 2.5 goals saved above expected. So, I mean, he definitely played his butt off. But at the same time, if you're the Wild, where's the finishing? You have power play opportunities. It seemed like you could argue for the final 20 minutes, they won it metaphorically the final 2 periods of this game, but didn't really have anything to show for it other than a kind of ticky-tack garbage Pat Maroon goal to cut the lead in half at one point. So it's frustrating. It's a frustrating loss because they're missing these guys. The talent of Kaprizov, and Spurgeon, I know at one point sat for quite a bit in this game. I don't know. I haven't seen too much of an update on what.
Do we know why? Because he came back, and then in the second period, he was paired with Mermis. It was weird. He was paired with your guy Goose. Then he sat the last 3 shifts of the first period, and then he came back in the second period and played. But they changed the pairing, and because we jump on and do the show immediately when the game is done. I'm not at John Hines, and I don't know that John Hines would share it, but that was sort of a weird thing, and I don't know why Spurgeon didn't play. I was fearful that he had been lost because, I mean, he obviously plays a lot, so I at first feared he was hurt again too, but that was a weird one. I'm not quite sure why. It's funny though, because what you just said, I've got in my notes, and it starts with this one. My notes, I wrote this down in the third period because this guy had spurts in this game where he was pretty impressive. But it's a same old far too often. And it's this: Marcus Johansson has too much skill not to have more production. Like you saw tonight, he made some really nice plays and he had some real nice opportunities. But and yeah, it's a good defensive play, but he had that partial breakaway and the defenseman lifted his stick. And like, I look at what Johansson, like now is the time with Kaprizov out and with all of these guys out. Now is the time where number 90, you got to get him to what you said, finish. He's got to finish what he starts. And far too often, aside from the 2-goal game, I think it was against Detroit, far too often, Age, he doesn't do that. And it's frustrating because if you to get, as you're saying, and you're exactly right, they need 2 points. And they need 2 points at home, and they need them against Western Conference teams. And to get those points, Marcus Johansson needs to do more. And it's just so frustrating because you see the skill, and you're sort of enamored with it. Like, oh man, there's some skill here. But then he doesn't complete the mission. And if you've ever needed the mission completed, it's now. And
he's like the movie that you watch and you're like, it's a hidden gem. You're like, wow, this movie's amazing, but you can't find it on any streaming service. It's on TV once a month at 3 a.m. on some channel you don't even pay for. Like, you know the plot, you can get behind it, but when you watch it, you're like, God, this is an enjoyable 2.5 hours. It's just, you don't watch it enough because it just doesn't show up enough. We've seen him have the skill and the finishing in stints with the Wild, and now I just don't know where it is, because this is, like you said, the perfect opportunity for a guy like him to be able to step up, show off that skill, and frankly, pretty much earn brownie points to further his career in the NHL, like, and get more money eventually when the next contract time for him comes up. Because right now, this is the spotlight on him. This is a time for you to step up, take some reins, and help drive drive the bus that is the Minnesota Wild team, while you have Kirill Kaprizov out, while you're battling injuries with a guy like Marcus Foligno out now. I don't understand. I don't understand how he is not producing more, because he does have, he's not a superstar by any means, don't get me wrong, but he's got enough in that package to where the production is just not there. It's just not there. And it's so frustrating because you see him do 90%, and then that final 10%, we just can't. We just shut down. Everything comes to a halt, turn off the lights, head home, pack it in. We're going out. I don't get it.
And what's really tough about that too, and I've got this in my notes from the first period, is the pass that Boldy set him up with in the first period against Markstrom, which was a great play, which should have resulted in a goal. And as GA007 says, and he's right, JoJo has no finishing touch. That's who he is. And, ordinarily it's frustrating, but now it's deadly because you don't have Kaprizov, you don't have guys. And, and when Patty Maroon is the guy who scored your only goal, and it was a nice goal off of a play that he actually initiated as well. But, that's not how you're going to get points. That's not how you're going to win games. What are your thoughts on Flower too? Because I actually thought the first 2 goals were by Calgary first period were tough. And we touched on this briefly in hypothesizing if Gus was going to be out for a while. And now we find out he's week to week. He was placed on IR, so he's going to be out for a while. And I'm guessing that we are going to see backup Zane McIntyre against Tampa Bay on Thursday. But what are your feelings here? Because, we're talking about a 39-year-old goaltender who, I think was proving as a backup to Gustafsson as far as not having to carry the workload. He was fine, but I got some concerns here, and if this requires, once he's healthy, and it sounds like he's close to being healthy at Iowa, that Jesper Wallstedt gets called up, I'm fine with that, because I don't think that you can ride Fleury and think that that's going to work out well. I think that is a recipe for big problems, and I think these guys are smart enough to know that.
Yeah, I think I need to first issue an apology to Marc-Andre Fleury, because we talked on New Year's Day following the home and home sweep of that the Jets did to the Wild. And I said that if Gustafsson was out for an extended period of time, I don't know you're going to be able to get the best out of Marc-Andre Fleury each and every night. Just at the age of 39, you can't rely on him to do that. I saw that tonight. He was phenomenal. Part of the reason why he was only 3-1 in a sense, bailed out Alex Goligoski on multiple occasions, especially there was one shift, it a pure disaster class. It honestly put it in the Louvre, because this thing was amazing. It was about a 30-second shift it should have had an expected goal for the Flames of like 3. It was a bad turnover followed by a toe save, and then another errant pass followed by a blocker save off the post, and then just I don't understand how he's gonna be able to keep this type of performances up if they're gonna have to lean on him anything more than, a 50-50 split with a guy like Zane McIntyre or a Jesper Wallstad if they call him up. If he can, I mean, by all means, tell me I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong in that sense. I just don't know how
It's too big of a gamble.
a human body
you're
at
not
the age
wrong.
of 39, like
Right.
he physically should not be able to do this every night. So I love that he was able to do it tonight and kept them in this game. They just weren't able to back his performance with one of their own, but they can't rely on him. They're gonna have to put up, 3 or 4 a game minimum moving forward just to like back up the one. He's gonna have nights where he's not looking like he did tonight. He's gonna let the bad ones in. So it's to waste a performance like we saw tonight is just criminal.
Yeah, and the problem tonight. So the first period I didn't think was great. I thought that the Wild certainly picked it up in the second period, and I thought in the third they were fantastic for a portion. And I believe they had 17 shots on goal or thereabouts in the third period. But to what you're saying about Flower, the team itself around him got tired. With about 9 minutes left on, Calgary started to shift the domination of play towards them. And you could see guys were gassed, and you could see guys were tired. Goligoski, I think, was demoted to the Bogosian pairing because of what you're talking about. But I don't see how this is going to work. I mean, they finally took John Merrill out because of the same type of thing. But I would rather play young defensemen who might make some mistakes, but at least they can try and cover up. I just don't see how that works. But yeah, I mean, this was a piecemeal together roster tonight. I will say this.
Quickly to your point about them looking tired. You're right about that 9-minute mark, but that final 3 minutes, it was painful to watch this team tonight try to get Marc-Andre Fleury to the bench for the
they couldn't do it.
It was like they were like skating in mud trying to get up the ice. No passes were connecting. It was kind of half effort, dump and chase. We're going to throw it in hard around the end wall, but we're going to mosey on over to the corner and maybe we'll throw a body. I don't know. And then
they look so gassed, dude.
They look like they played like back-to-back games. Why are they so tired? What New Year's activities did this team happen upon that they look so dead tired here for the final 20 minutes?
I think in some cases you're asking guys to play more than they're capable of playing. I think in some cases you've got guys that aren't, here's a prime example. I think, and I do like him, and look, he got red hot once John Hines became coach, but Matt Boldy, he ain't going to carry you by himself. And so I think it was a bunch of factors, and I get as frustrated as anyone with teams when I sense that they quit or they don't. But I just sensed with about 9 or 8 minutes left in the third period tonight, Age, they were just tuckered out, like they had given their all, and that's it. And when you're without Kaprizov, when you're without the Stars, it's tougher. But here's the thing too, to not mince this conversation. If this is what's going to take place now, as the deadline approaches, I think you've got to be very cognizant of the fact that if you've got guys out for an extended period of time and you're giving up valuable points right now, you cannot afford this. You're going to have to look towards next season. Like this is going to get to a point where, because are you really going to sell your soul? Are you really going to basically try to start or not start? You right now are playing what amounts to playoff games. Like you're trying to get points. There's no nights that you can take off. Are you going to do that and not try to deal off some parts? Because I think this stretch might give you a definitive direction. And it's not to say that John Hines is not the guy, because that's not my point. But my point is this is going to cause you to have to make some decisions. And if this continues and you are playing Western Conference teams and you are, as you pointed out, you are getting 0 points and you're giving up 2, and that's in your conference. At some point in time, I think you have to make a call. Not yet, but at some point soon.
Yeah, Robbie said it. I believe it was the comment that I posted just before Mike's here, but like, at what point do you take that assessment? NHL trade deadline this year is March 8th. So you got about 2 months to kind of weigh those options. But we're also in a society now, a hockey culture now, where teams are starting to trade earlier than that. You're not seeing those flurry of trades before, because they want the acquisitions for those meaningful connections to get into the team, build that chemistry, start gelling. So in reality, maybe you like a month and a half at the most, but in reality, if you are making a decision as Bill Guerin on what you're doing, if you're sitting pat, if you're moving guys, February, like Valentine's Day is like the very latest. You're looking at maybe the first week of February is when you're really starting to make those decisions. So this next month, January, this is like your do or die time for the Minnesota Wild. This is where the guys in the locker room need to kind of buckle down and say, hey, we're either going to get this going or we're packing it in, and we're going to part ways at some point before the end of the year. So this next month is just so crucial for the direction of this team.
Yep, but as I just a comment again from GA 007, but who can you trade? And that's a whole different conversation. And you're exactly right. Like, you've given out no trade clauses to a ton of guys. That's correct. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guys you simply can't trade. And so, like, as I look down this roster, there aren't a ton of guys. There are a few that you can probably try and move, but the issue, I guess my point is this. The clock is now, because of your start, the clock is ticking on your playoff chances. Like, this is not if they don't get the points to get in the playoffs now, they'll get them later. No, when you get off to a bad start, you come back and you get hot, and then guys get hurt. And so it's not a shock that you certainly lost tonight. Disappointing, but not a shock. This was a key game. And so I don't know exactly when a decision would be made. I don't know who Bill would move, but I do think that we are getting to a critical point here where, Kaprizov's AJ's week to week now. Yeah. Gustafson's week to week, not day to day, not they might be back on Thursday. We don't know. We don't know when and the problem with the sport is guys go out who we don't even know are hurt. I guess Foligno has a lingering problem. I don't know about that. He played on Sunday and looked fine to me. Heck, we talked about it. He's running around the ice. He looked fantastic. Zuccarello hasn't played since when? Pittsburgh. So, like, there's a lot of long-term. Brodin's not skating yet. Yeah. At least Matt's is skating. So, like, this is not, this guy's banged up and he'll be back in a couple of days. We don't know. And look, I mean, God bless them. The guys, Sammy, Walker, Patan, that whole group, Lucchini. Lucchini, they're going to give their all. They're going to try, but they were in the minor leagues for a reason. Mm-hmm. And now you've got far too many of them coming up, and Patan is playing a key role tonight. Like, he was out there late in the game, and I don't blame Hines, but like, all of these things put you in a real predicament.
Yeah, I don't want to have to watch Jake Lucchini try to go coast to coast buttered toast just to like get this team going. Like, thank you. I don't understand why some of the bigger name guys can't take on this role. Like, Kaprizov is out. That is the biggest hole on this team. Matt Boldy, and you mentioned this before, he's not going to carry you, but you need to step up, and this is your time to like get in fuego, get hot. There were times where, and granted, he's putting beautiful passes on there that Marcus Johansson just isn't finishing, and Matt Boldy can't pass and shoot the puck himself.
Right.
But you have to be the player that gets the gears turning. You have to be able to just get this. You have to make the train leave the station is all I'm asking for. I'm not asking you to do too much, but just wave the bell. Hey, all aboard. Let's get moving. Get some momentum swinging. Because if you get one dirty, ugly, disgusting goal, rotten, I don't care. That's going to be enough. Like,
and they tried.
And they tried tonight. And
they were crashing the net in the third, left and right. Markstrom got pissed off and speared Rossi in the leg. But at the end of the day, the problem is this too, H. Your top line gave you 0 points.
Yes.
Eriksson, Ek, Boldy, and Johansson. It can't look pretty. It has to go in the net. Like, there's no room for, they got some other production. No, when you're down as many guys as they are, that top line has to get you a goal or 2 goals. They certainly had their chances. It's not like they didn't. Markstrom, to your point from the top of the show, played really, really well, but that you need that line to score. And if they don't score, the odds in the current predicament, the odds are very much against you coming away with 2 points.
Yeah, I did not expect Markstrom to have as good of a game as he did. So, I mean, credit to him for I would say, winning the game for the Flames, because they played all right as a team, and they clearly were a little bit more conditioned than this Minnesota Wild club tonight, but it was their goaltending is what it came down to for the deciding factor. Like, I want to say Marc-Andre Fleury was the better goalie just because of how, like, no pun intended here, but the flurry of shots he faced especially in that first early, like they were making him work. I made a joke about it, but like what they were forcing him to do in the first 30 minutes of this game was almost elder abuse. Like, he should not have to fend off this many shots with this many toe saves, the acrobatics. He should not have to do that early in the game. Like, you're just doubling its workload for no reason. On top of, he's going to have to double his workload with Gus being out. The team needs to. Is it time for another closed door meeting, John? Or is that what we're going to resort to here any second?
No, because I don't think that they're not. I don't think this is a chemistry problem. I don't think that this is like you just need that first line to score. And I think they're trying. Like I got the sense tonight, and you put it perfectly. At the end of the game, it looked like they were skating in mud. It looked like they cared. They just couldn't generate. Yeah. Okay, I got two more things for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Annual Brock Faber praise, but it's a question. It comes in the form of a question.
Okay.
Okay. It has occurred to me, and I don't know if this is backed up by the stats or not. I think it might be. Last 3 or 4 games, the second power play, which gets out there with about 30 seconds left, is more effective than the first one. And here's my question. Haven't we seen enough for Faber to play with the first power play and Spurgeon to play with the second? If nothing else, and Faber was doing this in the third, and I loved it, he started shooting. And the Flames and Wild were guilty of this again. It's going to drive me to hate the game I love. The overpassing makes me want to just puke in the press box. Oh. Like, you got guys in the slot. It's not just a Wild thing either. The Flames do the same BS. You got guys in the slot and they pass the puck. And it's like, are you an idiot? If you shoot the puck, and I know, I'm afraid it might get blocked. Well, first of all, I'm talking down low. So I'm not talking pucks that are probably going to be blocked. But Faber, I loved it from the point, and I just started to sort of fire away. And he doesn't have like a howitzer, but he's got a really good wrist shot.
It's tactical. Like
but Spurge isn't. He's not as tactical. I mean, yeah, he's Spurge. Okay, he's great. He's captain. Gee whiz, he invites people to his house. I love it. But Brock Faber, put him on the first power play. It ain't like Spurge has been Bobby Orr his entire career. You know, he wasn't on the first power play at the start of the season. It was Caitlin Addison. Mm-hmm. So could we get Brock Faber? Because I'd rather have somebody that's a perfect description. I'd rather have somebody take tactical wrist shots that create rebounds than I would Spurge, who I feel like far too much now looks to try and move the puck.
Yeah, and this is something I thought was left in the past with the coaching change. But if something isn't broke, why try to fix it? You know, with Spurgeon's timeout, Brock Faber was doing just fine on the top power play unit. So why is it that when Spurgeon comes back, immediately we're slotting him back in onto that top power play?
I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. Until Brock Faber doesn't deserve it, he shouldn't be moved. If anything, bump one of the forwards off if you really wanted to put Spurgeon up there. That shouldn't be the solution, but it should not be moving Brock Faber down to have to try to facilitate, to, no offense, Pat Maroon and Marcus Johansson, who right now are not, like, that's just not the answer. Brock Faber's, his talents and skills are on the top line, the top power play unit with a Matt Boldy, a Ryan Hartman, a Marco Rossi, and a Joel Eriksson. Like, that is who he should be playing with, not Pat Maroon and Marcus Johansson.
Exactly. And he seems to have an idea of how to create off of that with shots. That's what drives me nuts now. You have so many guys that are just looking to pass the puck around, right? Pass, then a shot. Well, I'd rather the shot just comes from the point if you can get it through, which, because of the wrist shot, he actually does. Yeah. The worst thing, in my opinion, in 2024, the worst thing that you can do on the power play is just blast away, because it's going to get blocked. But
and then it's the other way.
Exactly. But with what, and back in my day, when in the days of Doug Wilson with Chicago, Reed Larson with the Wings, they would blast, but it would get through because guys didn't want to block it back then because of the equipment. But now, yeah, if you can get the puck on net and at least get it to the net and a rebound, I'd rather have a rebound than a pass. I think a rebound can be a more effective thing because because there's more confusion. Passing, the defenders know where the puck is going. A rebound, nobody, including the goaltender, necessarily knows.
Yeah, and this team has shown, I think, all season long that when they're on the power play, they're not necessarily passing rapid enough and fast enough to make the goalie and the defense move to where they're getting out of position. That's where your shot and rebounds are going to come into play because it's just you're pinballing at that point. That's going to force the wide open backdoor chance that a Pat Maroon, like we saw tonight, that puck, that was not an intended pass. That was a chance, a rebound. It came to him. He had the entire net. He could have had a tea party and then still put it in, Judd. And that's
first, I believe, his first since late November. First goal.
I've been waiting on that. It's been a while for him. But
he's Patty Maroon.
I'm not expecting him to have I'm not expecting him to be prolific, but I've just been sitting on a Pat Maroon goal. That's all.
But Carey is exactly right. Faber is a beast. He's earned his place on the top power play. We all heard, well, he didn't play the power play with the Gophers, and he hadn't played the power play here. Well, guess what? He's really good. He's really good, and I would prefer that he gets to be at the point. If you're going to have one defenseman, I would prefer with that top unit, it be Faber and not Spurgeon. Okay, last thing before we wrap up the show, and we're going to talk about this more extensively on a JHS tomorrow with Declan and Jesse Pierce. But I want to ask you,
yes,
I'm guessing you saw this. What was your whole opinion of this Ryan Hartman thing? And I told you it wasn't done. Everyone said, well, no, the fight at the start of the game was like, that's just two heavyweights. That doesn't solve anything. Okay, it sets the tone that they're going to be nasty. But I told you there was going to be a vendetta where the Wild was going to go after a skill guy. Cole Perfetti, it turns out, took a stick on purpose from Ryan Hartman, I believe in the first period. Hartman was fined the max. I don't even recall it, but Hartman purposely raised his stick into Perfetti's face, cut him. He took a couple of stitches. Perfetti also said, I was mic'd up. And Hartman essentially apologized and said that's for Kirill, had to do it. Sorry about that, which the league cannot use against him because part of the agreement is mic'd up stuff cannot be used against a player because the players obviously have to allow those mics. Yeah. But what was your opinion of this whole thing? Because that basically meant that when Foligno in the postgame on Sunday said, well, the fight at the start, that took care of things and we weren't going to get Brendan, the thing with Dylan was done. What did you think of that 2024 vendetta and or payback?
All right. People might get mad at this because I'm not going to lean super hard to either side of the fence here. First off, I was surprised to find out, Michael Russo tweeted this out, players are alerted before every game if any players on the opposing team are wearing a mic. So this isn't like it should have been a surprise for Ryan Hartman. He should have known and had the conscious effort of, okay, the guy that I'm going to put my stick blade into his face right here out this face off, he's mic'd up. And me telling him I'm going to do that and apologize afterwards, like this is going to be picked up. So that should not be a surprise for him or anybody else. Do I like that has to happen? No. I don't want anybody headhunting at any means. Just similar, I don't want the Jets to go after the superstar for the Minnesota Wild that is Kirill Kaprizov. However, the NHL has set it up to where if the officials are not going to protect the players and the higher level players like they I think are supposed to and have very long commentated on, oh, we've got the best refs in the league out of any sports, whatever, blah blah blah. We, player safety first. If you're not going to do that, who is supposed to? That's where it falls onto the players. So do I think that should be the response? No, but I think the NHL has almost forced it to be because that's not to go after old hockey, but that's the old hockey way. And that's the unwritten rule. And it's the behind the scenes stuff and blah, blah, blah. Frankly, it shouldn't have to happen to begin with, but the fact that the Wild were put in a position, I don't think it's the worst thing that it did. because at the end of the day, Cole Perfetti, he's got to deal with a fat lip for a couple days, right? He's got a few stitches. He's got a fat lip. Kirill Kaprizov is out week to week.
Right.
Cole Perfetti's playing the next game for the Jets. It's as simple as that. So it's not like it was necessarily an eye for an eye. The NHL needs to figure out what they're going to do to limit this type of activity, and it stems from hits because we saw that spree of just kind of hits from behind earlier in the year that it seemed there was just no repercussions whatsoever. And I know they probably can't change things mid-season, but it has to be a conversation between GMs, owners, whoever the rules committee is on that. There needs to be a major overhaul before the next season.
Yeah, what you're talking about too is very true. Now that's partially guys also have to prepare to be hit. What I didn't like about the Kaprizov thing was it was not one, but it was a second cross check.
Yes,
you shouldn't have to prepare for cross checks. Now I do think that there have been hits I've seen where fights start or guys get hurt, and it's like, dude, this is the National Hockey League. You got to be prepared for hits. Cross checks, okay, yeah, you're going to get cross-checked on occasion, but Brendan Dillon in that case cross-checked him once and then took it and just, laid the wood a second time, and that's where he got hurt, Kaprizov being he. But here's what I don't like about the whole thing, okay? So hockey there is justice at times. And I agree that the Wild should have targeted a skilled player. I mean, Brendan Dillon, what am I going to do there? He fought Middleton. That took care of that. But you're not going to go around taking gratuitous cheap shots at a defenseman like that. I mean, it's a waste of your time. But here's what I really hate. Why is that the revenge? Why is that how you're going to do it? First of all, I am anti-stick. I mean, okay, you're going to take a stick to a guy's face. God forbid you blind him. Okay.
Yeah.
And here's the other problem. Nobody knew he did so that's what he did. Nobody who was at the game realized it until today when the fine came out. And then Perfetti said, yeah, it's on tape. He apologized. I hate the apology. If you're going to do it, don't apologize. This is hockey.
Own it.
This is, well, yeah. And if you want to, that's fine. But here's the other thing. And it doesn't even have to be illegal. What I would have done is I would have said, boys, defensemen especially, when Cole Perfetti, who's not a very big guy, but he's skilled, comes into our zone, I want you to concentrate on him and not in. And if you happen to knock him off his skates or punish him the entire game, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what you do. To me, that's where and it doesn't need to be swinging your stick. It certainly does not need to be taking your stick to a person's face, which I totally don't get. But if you have a chance, if you've got a good hit on Cole Perfetti, you take that hit because it's going to hurt. That's what I don't understand about this entire thing. And I guess my objection is, well, one, I don't like the fact that people did not realize that the Wild was going to target a skilled player. That's how the sport works. And it's 2000. It's a barbaric sport. Come on, let's be honest about it. Okay. I mean, it's a great sport. I love it. But they weren't going to do that. And then of course they're like, well, we took care of business. No, you didn't. You had a vendetta. You went and got him. Okay, that's fine. But it's how you did it I didn't like. First of all, it was like 2 stitches. Second of all, worst case is, again, I mean, I'm not going to put a stick into a guy's face because that's his eyes.
Yeah. Now,
will I hit him? Will I slam him into the boards? Absolutely. It's hockey. And if I have to fight, that's absolutely fine. So, but the other thing too, so just last point about this.
Yeah.
At the end of the second period on Sunday, I was watching in front of the Jets goal, and that's the long change period. So the Jets goal is right in front of where I sit in the press box. And Dylan and Hartman are having this long conversation, and it's plenty contentious, but you can tell they're not going to fight. And I think they were talking about this, and I think Hartman was explaining now in retrospect, this is what I did because you knocked our guy out. And I had a former player, and this, I watched it, and he's exactly right. You know what the problem is? Today's players, partially because they're friends, like they all skate together in the summer, right? Or for lack of a better term, pardon my French, they bitch at each other. like kids. Like instead of just throwing down or instead of MFing, like Hartman and Dylan are having this verbal spat. It's like what it drives me crazy.
I'll fill you in on the new young hip term because I just kind of found that yapping. There's a lot of yapping going on. A lot of yapping. It's too much tummy sticks is what I believe the kids also call it. I don't want you to be friends with these guys in the middle of the season. Tummy sticks. Because, you go up to the blue like, hey, good to see you, man. I'll see you in the off season, blah, blah, blah. I want, if one of your star players goes down, like some of the people in the comments are saying here, and Philip here, there are more than enough opportunities, like you said too. If Cole Perfetti brings it in, like an offensive zone rush, you know what? Maybe you sacrifice good defensive positioning for a big legal hit. And you're going to do that for 60 consecutive minutes because they did it the night before. So you're going to do it the next night as well. Right. It's
and Foligno sort of did that. But what I don't get is, target their skilled guys and but I'll tell you the one place where you see this constant tummy sticks, you see this constant yapping, penalty boxes now. Watch penalty boxes. If there's offsetting penalties, watch how much there's a back and forth. And it used to be guys would stand up and basically you could read their lips and they weren't nice words. Now it looks like they're literally arguing about well, you did this. No, you did this. Come on, guys, stop with it. Let's grow up. And if you want to throw down. And if you want to, and look, if a guy's not prepared for a hit, this part of it also is driving me crazy because I don't expect you, if a guy has his back turned, you know what? Don't go in and charge the guy because you could do a lot of bad things. But I also see guys completely unprepared and they're amazed. There was a hit, I want to say it was the Flyers Devils about a month ago. Luke Hughes, completely unprepared, took a big hit, and Jack, his brother, got incensed. And it's like, that's on Luke. You got to be, dude, if you get wiped out like that, because I think he was turned sideways. Again, if you don't have your back to the boards, I agree with that. You shouldn't. That's a garbage hit. But if you're turned and you get smoked, that's your problem. That's your fault. But yeah, this whole thing of your stick is the retribution and nobody even knows. Come on. Give me a break.
Yeah, no kidding. I did get back to your point about the talking, the penalty. Like, give me maybe you remember this, but there's a Stefan Veilleux clip when he was with the Wild. He goes to the box with somebody from the Avalanche, and he's just incensed. He's enraged, and Stefan Veilleux is just making fun of him for having no teeth, and that's it. He does the gums, that's it, and back. Yeah. It was somebody I want to say on the Senators the other night. I can't remember his name, but same thing. He's getting an earful. He just turns, wah, and then, back and focused on the game. You don't need to have a conversation here. This is not debate club. You go to the penalty box for 2 minutes. You feel shame, and then you leave. Yeah. Get back out on the ice.
And if you want to go fight, I'm fine. I don't give a crap about that. But no, you're exactly right. Okay. Unfortunately, the Wild drops a third consecutive game. They lose to Calgary. We will be back with the JHS tomorrow, as I mentioned, with Declan and Jesse. Age, as always, great work. If you are available, we could certainly do this again on Thursday when the Tampa Bay Lightning are in town. Score North, we got a lot of stuff. We got Flagrant Howls. We got Purple Daily. We got a twin show in which we do the Immaculate Grid. Age is always working on stuff to get it posted. He does a great job. We appreciate it, and we will see you soon on Judd's Hockey Show.